I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Canon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
All right, today we have... This was the request of our friend Heather, who we had on a few weeks ago for The Great Mouse Detective, and her request is the Swiss Family Roinson, the 1960 version.
Yeah, this is the best-known version of all the Swiss Family Roinson, adaptations that have been made over the years. And there have been quite a few. This is a very popular book to adapt to film television.
Yeah, I remember watching an animated series of this as a kid at some point.
Yeah, I think I've run across in kind of researching for this that there have been so many adaptations of this book into various formats. They've done audio adaptations. They've done, you can even argue that just Lost in Space is just this, but in space. They're also just the Robinson family. It's Danger Will Robinson.
Yeah.
So,
there was even some talk over the last decade of doing another Swiss Family Robinson with a lot of actors that just never happened. I mean, there was one rumor that Will Smith was going to be involved in it. There was a rumor of Disney themselves remaking it with Lindsay Lohan, because they had a thing about remaking all of their movies with Lindsay Lohan for a while.
Why was that a thing?
I don't know.
I don't necessarily have anything against Lindsay Lohan, mind you, but why was that a thing for us?
I don't know. There was a rumor of Bill Paxton being involved with one. The most recent rumor, Steve Carell in a movie called Brooklyn Family Robinson.
No, please no. Can we not? There's even talk about them developing a Disney Plus series. I don't know if it was a movie or a TV series or whatever, but I heard rumors that they're trying to bring this back again in some form for Disney Plus.
This was a big thing for Disney at the time. This was like one of their really big live action hits, and they didn't have a lot of those during that time.
You watch this movie and you go, when was this made? And then they get 1960, and you're like, really? Really? Because this is still the point where you look and you go, oh, Disney, you're a bit behind the times, aren't you?
Even the people working on this movie question Walt's decision in making this movie based on how out of date the book was.
Well, we talked about that during Babes in Toyland as well.
Mm-hmm.
That you look at that movie and you go, what year did they make this in? It's kind of interesting that this really hit for people, because this isn't really where the country was in 1960, I don't think. I know a lot of people of our generation who really love this movie, and this is also not where we were in the 1980s.
I think it's one of those, like a lot of movies that we've talked about. This was one of those movies that was just always on TV. So I think a lot of our generation just watched it because it was on TV, and they remember it because they watched it.
Yeah, one of those Disney Channel wallpaper movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. And maybe that's kind of why I'm not as nostalgic for it, because we've talked about my lack of Disney Channel as a child. So this was not in my household as a kid. I didn't own this on VHS. I didn't have the Disney Channel until I was much older. So this was one of those films that I think I saw once as a child and went, huh. And then just did not see again for years and years and years.
I mean, This came out the same year as movies like Spartacus and The Time Machine. Two movies that are really classic cinema. And then you have this.
Man, can we watch The Time Machine?
I'll watch the 60s. I actually own the 60s Time Machine on DVD. So, as Kiki said, this is not the first adaptation of the Swiss Family Robinson. We had to go back a bit for that to 1940 with a movie by RKO. RKO released Swiss Family Robinson in 1940. Walt Disney saw this and was not impressed. Saying,
also on Disney Plus now.
I'll get to this.
Yeah.
Hold on. There's a story behind this. So RKO does this in 1940. Walt Disney sees it, not impressed, says he can do better. Ends up purchases the movie outright from RKO. This is why this is on Disney Plus. And as soon as he buys the movie, he puts it in the vault. So it can never be re-released. So it wouldn't take away from the fact that he was making his own Swiss Family Robinson movie. We've mentioned that Walt was a petty, petty man.
Here's the thing. I have seen both the versions that are on Disney Plus. So I've seen this 1940. I'm agreeing with Walt. That thing should have stayed in the vault. That film sucks.
The director of this 1960s movie, Ken Anakin.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
That's a cool name, dude. You got yourself a cool name, director Ken Anakin.
Ken Anakin went on record saying that the 1940s movie was what not to do in terms of an adaptation. That mostly dealing with the fact that the entire movie was filmed out very obviously on sound stages, and Walt wanted a more realistic look using actual locations and realistic filming. They actually did film this on an actual island.
They filmed it on the island of Tobago.
Can you imagine if any studio, because we've talked about this, how there are people who don't like when certain movies get remade. And we always say the original movie's still there. If you don't want to see the remake, if you don't want to see, you name it, I guess the most recent example would be something like the new Ghostbusters. If that doesn't drive your fancy, you can still watch the original Ghostbusters. But can you imagine if you actually liked the 1940 Swiss Family Robinson and you didn't care for the 60s version, that you couldn't watch it because Walt put it in the vault?
I don't know if Walt was the first person to do that. In fact, I'm thinking he probably wasn't. I know he's not the only person to have ever done that. He was probably not the first, and I know he definitely wasn't last. It's a little harder to do that now. Just say what you want about the internet and about, the fact that, like, everything ends up on a torrent site or whatever. But as far as the preservation of independent media, it actually has helped. There have been things that we've thought were kind of lost forever, and then they just kind of end up on the internet somewhere. And sometimes these are things that have been almost actively buried by companies, that the companies don't want them to be seen. And maybe the artists do or whatever, but they have lost the rights to them. They don't have the rights to their own work anymore. And sometimes it's a fan out there with a single copy of something. This is how we still have the Star Wars holiday special, to be honest. Somebody happened to have a home recording system going in the 70s, and pretty much everything we have stems from that one recording. Which is why we all have the exact same commercials and stuff. It was shown in different markets, and so it should have different commercials, but it all comes from one person's recording. So, that's what we got, and bless that person.
Let's talk a little bit about this director, Ken Anakin. He's directed quite a number of Disney movies. He directed the 50s Robin Hood that's on Disney Plus. He directed a movie called Third Man on the Mountain. This is not the last time we'll mention that movie.
Yeah.
But in our generation, he's probably known best because he was the director for The New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking.
Pippi Longstocking is coming into your town.
Stop it. Stop it. Don't make me come up there and smack you.
So yeah, he was the director of Pippi Longstocking, the 80s movie that every single one of us saw over and over again.
Unless you're me, and then I watched that once and said never again. I'm not kidding. I think I've seen that film once, and then I went, nope, nope, not that. He was named a Disney legend, and I'm legit. He did give a lot to the Disney Corporation, but he is an interesting figure in the Disney kind of pantheon of collaborators.
Definitely did a lot for Disney, and was a prominent director of many Disney films. As we'll say, Disney during this era would recycle a lot of their actors and a lot of their directors and even a lot of their voice actors.
I kind of like that in the sense of Disney used to have a style in the way that their films looked. You could always tell that Disney style. You had, the Disney kids.
Mm-hmm.
You had that kind of, and it wasn't just Disney. I mean, the old studio system gave that look to every studio.
Mm.
You had that pool of actors and directors, and they all had their talent that they worked from. But Disney, that's what they had, and Disney's kind of cultivating that again. You have the Marvel group that is working. You have Taika Waititi is in there, Jon Favreau is in there, that does the Marvel films again and again. They have actors that come back again and again, of course, because they're playing the same characters. And then you have the Star Wars group that has all the recurring creatives behind the scenes. Even down to people like the makeup artists and cinematographers and people that you don't really think of as much. But also they reuse a lot of the smaller actors and stuff will bounce around between some of the characters. So not necessarily the big stars who are always playing the same characters, but some of the smaller character actors will show up playing these tiny bit parts and stuff in various projects. And it does give a cohesive kind of feel to these franchises. But also, they will kind of cross over. Who is it? Ming-Na Wen that's got the hat trick now.
Yep, Disney princess, Marvel superhero, and a Star Wars character.
Yeah, which, bless her, that's an awesome one to pull off. And a lot of the creatives behind the scenes are starting to bounce around between that. I mean,
Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau and Taika Waititi have both gone between Marvel and Star Wars now.
And Jon Favreau directed Jungle Book. So he already has the hat trick.
And isn't Taika going over to one of the animated projects?
I think so. And he also, he just, as we are recording this, was just in Free Guy for Disney's newest studio, 20th Century Fox.
Yeah. So I'm kind of liking that it's feeling like, I hate it when corporations use the word family, but it is kind of feeling like a talent pool like that again.
Synergy.
Yeah, it's synergy. Let's use an awful corporate marketing term. I hate those too, but at least it's better. So I like when they do those things. As long as other people are kind of regularly brought into the rotation. I don't like when it closes ranks and it's like these are the people we use and we never use anybody else. I like when there is a feeling of, a corporation's never going to be loyal, but I at least like the fiction that it will.
All right, let's.
I don't know. It's a weird balancing act, but give me that fantasy. You're all about fantasy, Disney. Give me the fantasy that you actually care about your employees.
Oh, that's another conversation for another day. But
speaking of their employees, shall we talk about who they employed for this film?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the highest billed actor in this movie. I hate to call him the star because he's barely in this movie, but John Mills.
Sir John Mills.
Sir John Mills. Yes. Sir John Mills, the father of another Disney legend in Haley Mills.
Yeah, both John Mills and Haley Mills, Disney legends in their own right. He is our father, who is just called Father in this. He's never given a name. He's just Father Robinson. Mm-hmm. Even his wife calls him Father, which is I know.
In this current era, a husband calling his wife Mother has a different connotation.
Well, my grandparents did that when the children or grandchildren were around. Go talk to father, or go talk to grandpa or whatever.
So technically, she's calling her husband Daddy.
Yeah, I just don't. Can we not? Can we make that not a thing? Can that be one thing that millennials kill? If millennials are going to be accused of killing stuff, can we kill that? I really want to kill that. But yeah, so John Mills as the father, he always had these kind of, hello, I am stately English John Mills. That was the parts he always played. Yeah, for most people our age, he really is known as Haley Mills' dad, isn't he?
Yeah,
that's kind of it's kind of sad because he
had a pretty big career before that.
Yeah, he was a major. I mean, Oscar winner and all that kind of stuff, and the BAFTA fellowship, and he's a knight and everything. And we're like, oh, Haley Mills' dad, but yeah, I mean, the mother, who is also just called Mother, is portrayed by Dorothy McGuire, who was an Oscar nominee. She unfortunately never won. Best known for Gentleman's Agreement and Friendly Persuasion, but best known to the Disney audience as the mother in two very famous Disney films, this and Old Yeller. She's kind of the quintessential Disney mother of the era.
Yeah.
She would work with Tommy Kirk in both of those movies. Speaking of Tommy Kirk in this as Ernst Robinson. We've
another Disney legend.
Talked about him before.
Yeah. Babes in Toyland, Misadventures of Merlin Jones, The Shaggy Dog, Old Yeller.
Yeah, he was the Disney kid for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
So getting into the other kids here, we've got James MacArthur playing Fritz Robinson, the oldest of the Robinsons. Those of a certain age will remember him best as Dano on Hawaii Five-0.
And was also in Third Man on the Mountain.
Yeah, that movie comes up a lot for the people in this film. Do you want to talk for just a second about what's so important about Third Man on the Mountain in Disney?
So, for those of you who are wondering what's so special, why we keep mentioning Third Man on the Mountain. So, Third Man on the Mountain was a movie about climbing the Matterhorn. What's one of the most well-known rides in Disneyland? The Matterhorn. So, yes, the Matterhorn was a ride based off that movie.
Of course, now people remember the Matterhorn, and nobody remembers that it was based on Third Man on the Mountain.
Yeah.
Unless you're a real Disney geek, like we are.
Yeah.
So, speaking of people who were in Third Man on the Mountain, we have Fritz's love interest here, Roberta, played by Janet Monroe. She was also in Third Man on the Mountain for Disney, but she got her start both in film and with Disney in Darby O'Gill and the Little People, which we are going to have to talk about someday just for the feeling of acid trip it will give us. She was yet another kind of Disney teen at the time who was the romantic, teen lead in a few of these movies. And then as the other kid in the Robinson family, we have Kevin Corcoran, who we have talked about before.
Another Disney legend.
Yeah. And we last talked about him in Babes in Toyland, I believe. But he was also in Old Yeller and Shaggy Dog and Pollyanna and, all those. We got a couple of interesting ones in the kind of non-Robinson family cast. We have Cecil Parker, who plays Roberta's grandfather, the captain. Mm-hmm. And he was a character actor who did a lot of comedy. Cecil Parker was also interesting to me because he played a part in one of my favorite movies, The Court Jester with Danny Kaye. But one of the most interesting actors in this entire film actually plays our villain. This was toward the end of his career, when he was unfortunately relegated to playing background parts and villains. But at the beginning of his career, this man was one of the greatest stars in the world. As our pirate captain, who is named Koala in this film, we have the great Sesue Hayakawa. And it's kind of criminal that he is not a household name these days, because this man was the first non-European to become an international film star. He was a Japanese actor. He broke through in the silent film era. Okay, so he first broke through in the late 1910s, early 1920s, like somewhere in there. His first film, at least the first one that he's known for, is a film called The Cheat. Okay.
The Cheat?
The Cheat. Yes. But this one is famous enough that it's in the National Film Registry. Okay. And he was the forbidden foreign lover type. Okay. Opposite a white woman. Okay. So this in the 1920s in a Hollywood film. And he appeared on camera, and let me tell you, if you see a picture of this man in his prime, in 1915 or whatever, this is a good-looking man. If you are a person who likes good-looking men, this is a good-looking man. This man was so good looking that when he would, get out of a car to go into a restaurant or a film premiere or whatever, rich white women would throw furs at his feet so he did not have to step in rain puddles.
A literal Mr. Steal Your Girl.
Oh, yeah. In fact, it caused such a commotion that white men were not having it, and the racism started. Which, some stuff started happening between Japan and the West.
Yeah.
And
the whole
there
world was
may
involved
have
in that, yeah.
been some problems and stuff, so he bounced around to other parts of Europe. There was some suggestion from him that he was the target of some murder attempts, even to try to end his career. I mean, it really got bad. I'm not kidding. This man was a threat to the way of life for a lot of people. He went to Europe and for a time was very beloved. Then the 30s happened, and I don't know if you remember that there was some stuff going down in the 30s and the early 40s, and things may have gotten bad. And then after the war, he was unfortunately Japanese, and after the war, nobody wanted to give the Japanese actor any part other than you're the evil Japanese guy. However, this did land him a part in a little movie called Bridge Over the River Kwai. And that got him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He did not win, unfortunately. But it was kind of the high point of his career critically. And then probably the thing he's best remembered for to anybody today, he gets the part in Swiss Family Robinson. And his career kind of petered out from that. He was just relegated to, in his later years, to playing villainous Asian man.
I give him the credit for being able to transfer from silent films into the talkies. Not many actors were able to do that successfully.
That is very true. But the thing is I mean, this man was good enough to show up in early film when nobody other than, white people, and let's face it, white men, were making it. And he just showed up on the scene and was like, "Hi, I'm the hottest thing you've ever seen, and all of your women are going to throw themselves at me." And boy, he did it. He lived in a house in Hollywood that he built to look like a castle. So for the longest time, there was just a castle in Hollywood. And everybody would drive by and be like, "Oh yeah, that's Hayakawa's house."
I do it. I'm not going to lie. I do it.
I mean, legend. Absolute legend. And now we have to put like a little, this film has racially insensitive portrayals in front of it. And if you want to know why, it's because the guy that we did that to him in real life. Oh. But yeah, go look up this man. Go look up pictures of this man. This man, legend. Go read about his life, because this man was a trailblazer. Just awesome. And I'm so glad I got to talk to him. That is the high point of this movie for me. It's all downhill from here. Folks, shall we get into the actual plot, question mark?
All right, so we started this movie. No introduction, no reason. They are just on a boat in the middle of a storm. It's like we're starting this story in the middle of the story.
In media res.
We're in the middle here. They're in a storm. The family is trying to survive. The crew has abandoned ship. So wait, you know what? I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We have to backtrack because the film doesn't tell us this until later later on after the scene. Is that apparently they're on this ship. The family is going off to, where are they going off to?
New Guinea.
New Guinea. So this family is going to New Guinea to start a new settlement there. And they are chased by pirates. So to avoid pirates, the crew turns the boat into a storm, and the storm wrecks the ship. The crew abandons ship and leaves our title our Swiss Family Roinson on the ship, as the ship is pretty much destroyed in the storm. And I thought the captain always went down with the ship.
No, apparently that's the captain's dogs. Okay, first off, I hope every member of this crew died a horrible death. What kind of awful people were on this ship? The captain left his dogs on the... Like, okay, I get leaving the annoying European colonists and their super annoying children. The captain left his dogs.
The father almost left the dogs.
Okay, the father is awful, and we will get to that. But we are talking about the crew now.
So, yeah, they bail. They leave the dogs, leave everything.
They leave an entire family with their children. Okay, the family's awful, but let's just... hypothetical family, okay? You have a mother, a father, and 3 children. One of whom is very small. He's like 6 or something.
And one looks like he's in his 20s.
Yeah, one might be 21 by this point. We don't know.
I would say closer to 30, honestly.
Yeah. But, you know, the hypothetical family has a mother, a father, and 3 children. You have an entire, all these animals. You have 2 dogs who supposedly you have loved and trained, because these are well-trained dogs. And you just are like, yeah, there's pirates in a storm. Abandon ship, boys. Don't tell anybody. Quick, quick. While they're asleep or whatever. Yeah, I hope every member of that crew died just the worst death.
I understand that this is a Disney movie, but it would have made the characters look a little bit more in a positive light if they had died in the storm.
Yeah.
Like we see them bust out of the cabin that's been locked, that's been, forcibly held on by debris from the ship, and they just see members of the crew dead because they died trying to keep the ship afloat.
Yeah. Or like they don't even have to show us bodies, like, oh, how horrible, they've all died. Like just show the mother being like, oh, I can't even look. Like,
yeah, you don't need to show a line. Yeah, I get that this is a 1960s Disney film.
But yeah, they actually say like, wait, the crew have abandoned us? They didn't even tell, like the family is totally baffled. Like they just left us and their dogs. Like
they have to figure out a way to 1, survive, and 2, get to land because they're on a broken ship.
Well, yeah, the ship has crashed on the rocks near an island, but of course they still have to make it from the outer rocks to the actual shore. So they have to craft a little bit of some sort of raft to get from the wreckage of the ship to the actual land. And immediately the little kid, the smallest one,
Francis.
Francis, who is the most annoying of a truly annoying family, And 2, the only one with whom I have any empathy.
This kid adopts every animal he sees.
Yeah,
Every animal he sees, this is my dog, this is my pig, this is my donkey, this is my chicken, this is my elephant, this is my tiger.
This kid Pokemons the entire island, and I am super here for it, because that is exactly what I do if I landed on the magical island of all animals.
That's what I was thinking when I was watching this. Like, this kid is Kiki.
Hopefully I am not nearly that annoying, but I would be doing that to the end. It would just be like, hello, monkey. Oh, look at the birdie. Zebra, mine. Like, it just, like, everything would just be like, that I would see that tiger, and my first words would be like, here, kitty, 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 kitty. Just, yeah. That's me. That's me on the magical island of all the animals that should not be living together. Yeah.
So yeah, they build a raft out of whatever they can out of the wrecked boat. Kid really wants to take the dogs, even summoning the dogs as they're riding off the little raft. Kind of, come on, dog, let's go.
And the father, I know his name. His name is Richard, because he is a giant one. The father hates all humans and all animals, and I will agree with one of those things. The father's personality is, I hate all things, please get them away from me.
Yeah, it's he starts off very self-centered. It's like, I have to protect me, and I have to
and my family, who is an extension of me.
Yeah. And these dogs are going to weigh us down. I don't like dogs. I don't like animals. I don't like these birds, throwing birds by their necks.
Here's the thing, is he says, we can't bring the dogs. They weigh more than any one of us. Those dogs are like 80 to 90 pound dogs tops.
The only thing that the dogs would weigh more would be Francis.
Yeah, Francis is about the only member of the family that the dogs weigh more than. So, shut up, Father Richard. You suck as a person.
And
I really hate the dad.
To the point where even the mother,
a fine person, but
yeah, even the mother is saying, "Hey, these dogs are going to drown if we don't pull them into the boat."
Yeah, I also dislike the mother for one basic reason, and I think the last time we talked about it was when we did DuckTales. The mother has the personality of girl. We talked about it when we talked about OG Webby.
Mm-hmm.
That, there's a certain type of writer who goes like, well, we have a whole bunch of men. What should their personalities be? Well, he is strong, and that one's arrogant, and that one is a bit annoying. And then you go like, and what should we give the woman? Well, she's girl. That is her personality. She is girl. That's the mother in this movie. She has no personality. She's just girl.
And we get another one later in the movie. That's the same personality.
I would argue that Roberta is allowed to have a little bit more of a personality because she is given a couple of small plot lines. She's allowed to have things happen either to her or near her, but the mother is just girl. Like, she doesn't participate in the plot so much as stand near it and comment on it in a girl manner. Yeah, I very much dislike the father character because you can tell that all of this is his fault. You can tell that the mother did not want to leave Europe. You can tell that the boys did not want to leave Europe. But father wanted to leave Europe because father has ideals and does not like people and wanted to forge a new land in a new place where there were already people living, but they were the wrong color, so it is our job to civilize it. You can't get around the colonialism of the film. either here or towards the end of the movie and the resolution. But they get to the land with their first bit of supplies, and fortunately the dogs. And they're immediately like, land, we will make this home and we will colonize it as God intended, for we are Europeans. And
they even at one point called the island New Switzerland.
Yeah, they do, because that's what Europeans do. I will say that this island fortunately does appear to be completely devoid of human life.
Yeah, just animals.
Yeah, they do not find any native human life on this island at any point during this story. So at least they're not showing up and displacing native human life, which is good. I will give the movie that much. But there are an awful lot of animals, none of whom should be together on an island.
A strange mix of African and Asian animals, which they hand wave away by saying, oh, maybe at one point there was a land bridge between the two countries and that's what this island is. So that explains why all these animals are here.
It really doesn't, but Disney wanted to put a bunch of animals that they thought looked pretty, and then probably at some point while they were packing this island full of animals that somebody thought looked cool, somebody on the crew went, all these animals are from different places, right? There's no way they'd be on an island between Switzerland and New Guinea together. And somebody went, something land bridge. Done. My father used to teach this book to his students. Mm-hmm. He used to make this required reading in a class, those poor students. And he said he always knew which students actually read the book and which watched the Disney movie before writing their paper. Because there are animals that show up in the Disney movie that are not in the book. And so if a student mentioned an animal in their paper that was only in the Disney movie, he knew that they had not read the book. So if you ever get assigned this book as required reading, make sure you know which animals are only found in the Disney movie, kids, because it will give it away to your teacher that you only watched the Disney movie.
So let's kind of move on to the next day. I assume it's the next day, where the two eldest sons and father go back to the wreckage of the ship to retrieve the animals. And whatever
they finally just figured out they're going to need food.
Yeah, and whatever supplies they can get off the wreckage. So they go back, they get all the livestock. They're able to make them float, tie barrels to the sides of them and whatnot. But the pirates are back. The same pirates that chased them into the storm are still chasing them. Even though the ship is wrecked and there's nothing of value on the ship. Anyway, the two boys decide to load up the lone cannon on the ship and attempt to fire onto them. But father has a better idea and hangs up a quarantine flag, implying that we've got some people here with the Black Death. Don't come round to us. We got the Rona. Stay 6 feet away from us.
Yeah, you want to talk about things that do not look realistic in retrospect? Yeah. I think if we'd have watched this film, say 3 years ago, if we're recording this episode, we'd be like, and the father, in the most genius thing ever, puts up a quarantine flag, and they see it, and they're like, plague, run away, because, humans, they avoid that plague like the plague. And now we're like, And he puts out the quarantine flag and the pirates run away. And I don't understand that because humans, they do not avoid the plague. I don't understand that at all. They would just keep coming. They would call it, a hoax and just keep coming straight for that quarantine flag. That would not work in the slightest.
99% survival rate. We'll be fine.
Yeah. So,
enough modern jokes.
But yeah, it works for now. The pirates go away to regroup and figure out something else, and the family strips as much as they can from the boat, and they start constructing long-term housing. Meanwhile, the youngest kid starts Pokemoning this island like you would not believe. He gets him an elephant, he gets him a monkey, he gets him an ostrich.
And there's a tiger.
Yeah, there's a tiger, and I'm going to tell you, I spent 90% of this film rooting for the tiger. I really wanted the tiger to eat at least one member of this family, preferably the entire family. The tiger was the best character in this movie, and all of the humans are awful.
Shere Khan, you're in the wrong movie.
Yeah, I really wanted Kitty to just go munch, munch, crunch, crunch. No more family, because, oh my goodness, I hate every member of this family.
And they build their treehouse, which was so popular that they put it in Disneyland. And in Walt Disney World. I believe when you went to Walt Disney World, I assume you saw the treehouse.
Yeah, I think I did.
So yeah, in Disney World, Disney Magic Kingdom, it is still called the Swiss Family Roinson Treehouse. It is not called that anymore in Disneyland because in 1999, a more popular movie came out. And now it's called Tarzan's Treehouse. Although, depending on where you are in Tarzan's Treehouse, you can still hear one of the songs from this movie, The Swiss Polka. How did this kid, just based off moving water with how did this kid build a freaking refrigerator? They built a refrigerator. The plumbing I can get. The plumbing I understand. That actually makes sense based on how they're explaining it. But a refrigerator?
I don't. No, here's what I want to know. There's 3 people to work on the house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because we've got the father, the 2 oldest boys. The youngest boy is no good because he's Pokemoning the island. And the mother has the personality of girl, so she's not doing any work. So that leaves the father and 2 boys, none of whom probably have any construction experience. And they keep having to make trips back and forth to the boat to get construction materials and tools and whatnot.
The closest thing we get is I forget this damn kid's name. I'll remember it. Ernest. The closest we get is Ernest grabbing some scientific stuff and says, I can learn how to use this. And that's it.
Well, yeah, they hand wave everything as like these are the smartest people on the planet, But this is a very Randian ideal of like, if you just leave a man alone, man qua man to himself will learn how to do everything. It's one of those. So of course these 3 people with no construction experience who keep having to brave the rocks and the waves to bring over construction materials from this ship. And the mother, when she first sees it, says, like, I'm not going back up into this thing. I'm just going to live on the beach until you make this a safe place. Because the little kid tries to capture a monkey and ends up almost falling to his death.
He almost hangs himself. Because it's got this rope
No,
tied
he's got
to
the
him.
rope around his waist. It's that he's fine. But, you know, if he didn't have the rope around his waist, he might have, you know, fallen and broken his neck. But, you know, she says, I'm going to go sleep on the beach until you've built the treehouse properly. And then it's kind of cuts in this magical time the island exists in where you can never tell how long they've been there. In that, like, you know, 2 days later or whatever, they've got a beautiful treehouse that has been built by these 3, you know, doofuses on the island. And so has Mother just been living on that beach for like 3 months, 2 days, a week and a half, like
Whenever.
Yeah. But so now they've got their beautiful, elaborate treehouse with modern conveniences, the refrigerator, the plumbing, the sink, you know.
Yeah, and they're having a good time. Everyone's enjoying themselves. They're acting like they're on a vacation. Father even starts saying, hey, you know, we could live here. This could be our home. And, you know, we don't need the outside world. We don't need modern conveniences. No one here to be embarrassed in front of. Just our own lives. Everything we could have, everything we could ask. And then this is the part where I start to hate the mother because, well, our kids aren't going to find wives and they're never going to get married. They're going to stay here. Mama wants some grandbabies.
Well, I love the way that this scene is very specifically phrased. Because it's the 1960s. I mean, just barely. But it's also Disney. And she says, you know, this island doesn't have everything we need. Our sons will never know what it's like to have children. And I watched these with a friend and I immediately was like, she's talking about boinking. And then she was like, they will never know what it is like to be married. And I was like, boinking! She means boinking! Because it's like, she doesn't phrase it in like, they will never know the warmth of community or family or what. Like, it's very specifically like, they will never know what it's like to touch booby, you know? So
her thing is that she wants the 2 oldest boys to see if there's any other people on this island, or at least any kind of other people that may be on this island. Because as of right now,
the thing is, they don't actually know if they're on an island or not. All they know is they washed up on a beach, and they know that there's like a little lake, and they know that there's some tree. They've only seen like maybe a square mile area of this land. They could be on a peninsula. They could be, you know, they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They had no idea where they were in the water because they're just passengers on a ship. None of these people are sailors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're on a cruise ship down near the Bahamas and you crashed and people were like, well, where are you right now? Do you know if you're just on a beach in Florida or on an uninhabited island in the Bahamas or the edge of South Carolina? Like, do you know until you've walked somewhere and looked for people? No, you don't, because you're not a sailor, probably. So the boys have been asking, like, let us build a raft, because they've been doing that. They've been building like a little canoe out of a tree. And they're like, we want to take this raft and get there and just chart the edge of the land. And, if we end up back here, we're on an island. If not, or if we see a settlement or whatever, then okay, we're on some other form of landmass and there are people here and we can get help. But it seems ridiculous to just kind of set up home and maybe there's a fully stocked village 2 miles that way.
Or at least a city, something.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're out there and they come across the pirates again, who have captured another boat, with the only survivors being the captain and the cabin boy,
who has an amazing C cup and the girliest little voice you have ever heard.
Yeah, they could have done a little bit more to make her a believable boy. Like, even I'm watching this movie, and I don't even remember if I've ever seen this movie the whole way through before, but I could tell that is a woman.
Yeah, I mean, they could have at least, put her in some binding or something, but, like, no, she has an incredibly girlish figure from the get-go. I mean, you'd have to be 5 years old watching this movie to not immediately understand that that's a girl.
But everyone in this movie is completely convinced that this is a 14-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Even towards the end of the movie, the pirates are saying,
a 17-year-old girl,
Yeah.
This is very much a post-pubescent cisgender girl,
Yeah, even towards the end of the movie, the pirates are saying to her, "Give us the boy."
Yeah.
So yes, so yeah. Let's just rip this off here. This is Roberta. The cabin boy is actually Roberta. The captain is her grandfather. And the grandfather is saying, "Hey, if you ransom me, you'll get money. If that's what you want. Keep us alive. You'll get what you want.
Leave the boy alone. He's a nobody. He's, a poor boy that I took in to work on my ship. It's no use at all to you. Just leave him here."
Yeah, for a boy that is of no use to him, he seems awfully protective. And guys, we find out that that's his granddaughter. So of course.
Yeah. But, Fritz and Ernst see this going down. The pirates are discussing, like, well, do we ransom them? Do we kill them? Do we sell them into slavery? Whatever they're going to do with them. And they're able to cut Roberta loose, and the captain is like, no, just run. Leave me here. Leave me here as a distraction. Just get the boy away from here. And they end up doing that, through one means or another, and they escape with Roberta, thinking that she is Bertie, the cabin boy, and boy, does this turn homophobic for like a long scene.
Yeah, the boy saying, "Hey, I knew a guy back home like that. We called him a sissy. Look at the way he walks. Look at how soft her hand, how soft his hands are. He must be a rich kid who's never done a single job in his life."
Were we that pathetic when we came to the island, or were we always butch and masculine and way tougher and There's all these hints that Roberta's really a girl, doesn't want to take her shirt off when they have to go into the water and, all that kind of stuff. But eventually Roberta grabs the pistol from one of the boys that says, no, we have to go back for my grandfather and everything. And finally one of the boys figures it out. Duh. Yes, this is a girl. And immediately once her gender is revealed, she reverts to girl. and starts crying, and I don't want to be dressed like this. My hair looks awful cut short.
The point being that the captain, her grandfather, had her cut her hair and dress like a boy. Well, pirates are known for two things. One of them is pillaging.
Yeah.
I'll let you fill in the rest.
So, I mean, it's a smart move on behalf of the grandfather. You know, I'm not saying it was not intelligent.
It definitely came from a place of love. Again, this is his granddaughter. He's trying to protect his family.
Yeah. But now they need to, you know, their boat got destroyed in the tussle to, you know, free Roberta, and now they have to walk back across the island to get back to their home camp and warn their family that the pirates have found the island again, and also we found a girl, and, you know, whatever. But of course, now that she's a girl, now we get the love triangle.
Two brothers.
I would like to die.
Two brothers, one brains, one brawn, fighting over this girl.
Oh, come on. They have neither brains nor brawn between them. Although I love that the second Roberta is a girl, Ernst has to start mansplaining everything in the world to her. Hey, Roberta, do you know what math is? I'm sure you don't, because you're a girl. Let me sit here and mansplain math to you.
Again, her father is a sea captain. She probably grew up looking at maps and charts. She probably knows what math is.
Yeah, it's just, oh, it's so insufferable. And the thing is Ernst has not had this personality until Roberta is revealed as a girl. And Fritz has also not had the, like, big, strong He-Man personality until Roberta is revealed. The second Roberta is revealed as a girl, these two characters suddenly have completely different personalities as they had 2 minutes ago in the movie.
And they're constantly fighting.
It is awful.
These two brothers are fighting each other over this girl that they just met.
And here's the other part. Roberta is immediately into Ernst, the younger of the two boys.
Mm-hmm.
She immediately connects with him. They both love the sea. Fritz is absolutely not into the sea at all. He does not want to get back on a boat. He does not like the ocean. It sucks. Thank you very much. He does not want to go back to Europe. Europe sucks. Ernst, very into Europe, wants to go back to Europe, wants to dance, wants to dress in fancy clothes like Roberta does. Roberta and Ernst, very much a couple at this point in the movie.
Also, it's implied that they're the same age.
Yeah, it's very much implied that they are much closer in age than Fritz and Roberta. So from this moment on, Roberta and Ernst pretty much look like a couple at this point in the movie. And they get along much better, except for the fact that Ernst is a mansplaining little douche. And oh my goodness.
He killed his own chances right here.
Yeah, it's not like, dude, shut up for 2 seconds and let the woman talk. But, you know, they make their way back across the island. There's like a whole thing with an anaconda. Why is there an anaconda? Who knows? Somebody thought it would look cool. It does not. Then they run into a zebra that they have to save from quicksand, because of course there's quicksand. Of course there's quicksand. Have you ever in your life run into quicksand? No. You haven't.
Horse in quicksand. I'm having flashbacks to a different movie.
Yeah, I know. Don't remind me of a better movie in the middle of your crappy movie. It's just not a thing you should do. But anyway, then we cut back to the treehouse, and apparently it's Christmas because they're playing a Christmas tree. And
oh yeah, they have an organ now that they yeah, because that's the one thing you need to take out of the shipwreck is a freaking organ.
Well, apparently they have strip mined the ship of every other useful thing. Seriously, because now there's an organ that the mother is playing. And apparently they've also not stolen, but they've salvaged gifts from the ship because they've got some gifts wrapped up, and Francis is very annoyed because he can't open the gifts, and the mother's like, they're for your brothers when they return, and Francis is very much like, okay, yeah, but what if they're dead? Do I get their Christmas presents?
Typical kid.
Which I kind of love Francis in that moment because he's like, Mom, they're dead. They're not coming back. I get all the animals and also their Christmas gifts. Francis is growing on me at this point. Like, he's annoying, but he's not wrong.
But, yeah, as this is happening, yeah, our trio comes in here, riding on a zebra, singing Christmas carols.
And they're like, Mom, we're back, and we brought a girl. And the mother is immediately in full-on girl mode. She's like, I always wanted a daughter. Well, actually, I didn't want a daughter. I wanted a living Barbie doll that I could make clothes for and dress up, because that is apparently all that women want. Oh, I hate the mother.
Some people that are like that.
Well, yes, but they're awful people. They exist, but they're awful people, and they have no personalities of their own. And we call them pageant moms. But and they exist so much in the South, and they're all just horrible people.
But she's able to do one thing, is that she's able to fix Roberta's hair so it actually looks decent, rather than the hack job they had to do in 5 seconds to make her passable like a boy.
I mean, yeah, okay.
Roberta's obviously feels better about her hair now than she did before.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. She's fine. She's fine. It's all fine. And now she goes out, and now that she's like dressed in frilly clothes, now the two brothers are ready to draw blood over her. They're like, she's wearing one of Mother's dresses. Now I really want her. Like, it gets really Norman Batesy and like a little creepy.
But now both, again, this is where these two boys still continue to fight over her, trying to fight over who gets to dance with her and all that, to the point where the father kind of had to step in and say, okay, I'm going to dance with her. Both of you are essentially on timeout.
Yeah, it's a little strange. But the father gets a little creepy too, because at one point he does step over to the mother and he goes, see, the island provides everything. Even a girl. And I'm like, okay, you're getting creepy. Back it up. But
she just snaps back, but we have 3 sons and there's only 1 girl.
And I'm sure the father at that point is like, so they can just take turns. I don't care. What do you want from me? We just conjured up a girl on a magical island out of nowhere. I'm not made of women. Like,
this is also where, is this where they start setting up for the booby traps?
Yeah, they kind of, they celebrate Christmas and it's fine, but the next day they're like, hey, we've got a pirate problem. They're gonna be coming back for us because we stole their captive.
Yeah, they
still think it's a boy, but it's a use, we stole from them, and pirates don't really like that. So they're going to come back, and the father's like, well, let's go take everything off the ship. I don't really know what's left on the ship at this point. How are there even boards left on the ship at this point? But the father says, we're going to go finally remove every single last blessed thing we can take off this ship, and then we're going to blow up what remains of the ship in hopes that they won't remember what little island we're on. Hopefully there are a bunch of little islands. If they can't see the ship as a marker, they'll just forget which one we're on.
And this depresses the mom because now there's no way off this island.
Yeah, the mom still had this delusion that they're going to somehow fix this ship. At this point, it has been rotting in the seawater
for months at this.
For months at least. Yeah, no, you're not putting this thing back out to sea, honey. But then they get the idea of like, well, plan 1 is hide and hope they don't remember which island we're on. Plan 2 is we're going to Home Alone this thing. We're going to build a bunch of booby traps. We're going to build a bunch of defenses. And that way we can, kind of build a fortress and hole up here and defend ourselves.
So yeah, as they're building these booby traps, Roberta has shifted her gaze as Fritz is showing Roberta how the traps work. Him and Roberta are starting to get a little close, much to Ernest's own dismay.
Yeah, and there is no reason given for this. Prior to this point, Roberta and Ernst seem to have the connection.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the audience can tell, and as far as Ernst can tell, they're the ones who are kind of, I wouldn't say dating, but, they're heading that way. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, she's hanging out with Fritz and ignoring Ernst. So I'm kind of with Ernst on this one. Like, what the heck? Like, nobody owes you their affection, but it is an odd switch. Maybe use your words. Maybe just take her aside and be like, "I'm sorry, did I get the wrong? Could we just talk this out for a moment?" But it does lead to a bit of a moment where there is a bit of danger because Fritz and Ernst are so distracted with Roberta that everybody leaves Francis alone, and Francis blows up a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, because they made up some bombs out of coconuts, and young boy playing with fire and fireworks. He's lucky he didn't blow his arm off.
Well, that's what happens when you learn recipes from the professor.
Anyway, so yeah, no, the father, he steps in. It's like, okay, you two were supposed to be watching him. Instead, you're fighting over this girl. Maybe everyone's a little tightened up. We need to unwind. Holiday, Christmas. We're gonna have the first holiday on New Switzerland. And yeah, we're just gonna have fun.
He's forgetting about Christmas, but they decide to have a ostrich zebra something race.
Yeah, they're gonna have a race. Yeah. Let's get we did forget one thing is the Francis comes up with an idea for pits around the perimeter of the island that he wants to throw in tigers and other carnivore animals that when the pirates walk on him, they'll fall into the pit and then the carnivore animals will eat them. To which the father said, that's not a bad idea. I don't know where we're going to get the tigers from, but we can dig some pits that can, at least slow them down.
And basically, Francis comes up with an ingenious idea of, like, we're going to hang some meat as a lure and put, a little plank over there that won't quite hold the tiger's weight. And when the tiger goes to get the meat, he'll fall into the pit and can't get out. And it works. Genius idea. The kid is really good at catching animals. Let's point this out.
He is a Pokemon master.
Yeah. So he actually does get his tiger finally after all this time.
And the tiger has no injuries falling into that pit.
I will allow this movie a lot of things, but injury to an animal is not one of them. So, so they cover up the pit with some leaves and stuff so that the pirates can't tell that there is a tiger pit right in their way. And we got to talk about another scene that's right in this area. That's back to the insufferable love triangle again. Is that Roberta wants to learn how to shoot because they're gonna have to defend themselves from the pirates, and that might mean guns. So she asked Fritz to teach her how to shoot, and of course there's that scene of the sexy, the man has to wrap his arms around her and put his head on her shoulder and all that kind of stuff. And then Ernst walks up with this top hat he's made from leaves and whatnot of these, because Roberta had talked about, and a tie.
I think the tie's made of seaweed.
Yeah, but she had talked about missing the fashion in London and the tall top hats that were in fashion when she had left and everything. So Ernst tries it and asks her to dance, and she ends up making fun of him. And Fritz joins in, and Ernst gets really upset, and they end up fighting, Fritz and Ernst. Fritz mocks him of how do you think that, why do you think Roberta would ever be into you? And I kind of wanted to go the entire movie up until this point, because Roberta was super into him. At least that was the vibe she was giving off. People can change their minds at any time about this sort of thing, but that was, Ernst was not wrong to think that maybe there was a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I guess,
I think there was. It's just that he acted so smarter than thou that he kind of ruined it.
I mean, it probably is, but the movie is very... People need to use their words.
If people use their words, these will be much shorter movies and not as entertaining.
If there is disinterest, if she lost interest in Ernst, she just needed to say, Ernst, I think you're very nice. However, end of story.
Yeah.
And that respect goes both ways. It's like, no accepted, that, end of story at that. But there is none of that. It just kind of lingers and becomes a fight and everything. And Roberta needed to step in and stop it and make her intentions very clear. So, there's blame to go around on all parts here.
She even blames herself for the brothers fighting.
Well, she does have culpability to the point of, be clear about your intentions and affections. I have interest in Fritz. I do not have interest in Ernst. That is my, that is my feelings on the matter. End of story, kind of thing. I mean, it's, people and feelings are delicate, be kind, but be clear. I don't know. So
let's get to the race.
Yeah. They have a race with everybody riding on a very their various animal that they've chosen to ride. Somebody has an ostrich, somebody has a zebra.
Donkey. There's a donkey there, kids riding an elephant. Even the monkey has got in on the fun by riding one of the dogs.
Yeah, so they've got a little course laid out on the beach, and they're all gonna ride around and see who wins the race.
It all falls
apart. It's very cute. It's very fun.
It falls apart very quickly.
It's very slapsticky and comedic. Unfortunately, Roberta spots the pirate ship coming in and is able to rush back to the beach and scream, "Pirates, pirates, pirates on our beach! Everybody run!" And the family, however, they have prepared. I mean, they've been doing really well in their preparations, so they all have their parts to play, and they go man their stations. The pirate captain shows up on the beach and in unfortunate broken English starts screaming about "Give us the boy."
Again, they still think Roberta is a cabin boy.
Yeah, they even see Roberta and do not recognize that it is the same person. They just think it's part of the people who, she's part of the people who live on the island. Because they've never actually seen the people who live on the island. Kind of the rest of this part of the movie is just one long fight scene.
Yeah, they go after as the pirates get through the island, each family member triggers one of the traps and they go off. The bridge collapses, they fall into the pit with the tiger.
At least the tiger gets some good eating. I mean, we don't actually see it, but I assume.
A few fall into the pit with the tiger, only 2 come out. I'll let you decide.
They do send like a whole forest full of logs down on the pirates. A lot of pirates go under the logs and they stay down. So we'll let you figure out what you think happens to them.
They throw their little coconut bombs. They're firing what little rifle and gun ammunition that they have. Even to the point where the pirate captain feigns a surrender while the rest of his crew sneak up behind them saying, "You won. Here's the white flag. I give up. You're too good. You fought my men. No more."
Yeah. They actually even try going around and scaling the cliff behind them. This does lead to a rather funny part where you have actual like stuffed dummies being hurled off a cliff, and that effect does not hold up well because it is very obviously just like hay stuffed mannequins being thrown down past people. It looks like all is lost for the family, and then one of the ships from Roberta's grandfather's fleet actually finds them somehow.
It starts firing on the pirate
Navy,
yeah.
And starts firing on the pirate ship and disables it and comes ashore and captures the pirates, and yeah, we're saved.
Deus ex pirata.
But the captain is there, and he says, "Hey, you all saved my granddaughter's life, so I owe you big time, and we've got this ship here, so we can get you all off the island if you want." And
well, they're gonna take them wherever they want to go. If you want to go back to, our ship is going to London, but we can take you to London. You want to go back to Switzerland? We can take you back there. If you want to go to, where were they going? Fiji?
New Guinea.
And
if
you want to go to New Guinea, yeah, we can take you there too. Wherever you want to go.
Ernst really wants to get off of this freaking island. I do not blame him. And go to university proper. And the captain says, like, "Oh yeah, I'm like a huge donor to some big university, and they owe me, so I can get you in." I wish it was easy to get into big universities like that.
Oh, to be rich.
Yeah, I guess it is if you know rich people.
Even implying that both Ernst and Roberta will be going to the same university.
But father and mother really, father really likes the island, and I guess mother as girl is just gonna stand by her man, so they're gonna stay on the island, and Francis, as the little kid, is going to stay with his parents. Fritz and Roberta, who are now going to get married, I guess, they're going to stay on the island as well. So Ernst is the only one that's going to end up leaving and going back to civilization.
Well, he just had the only girl that that had shown any kind of interest in him now is hooked up with his brother, so he kind of doesn't really have much of a reason to stay there.
Yeah, I mean, Francis, I can understand. He's 6 and he has all the animals he could want, so I kind of get why he's staying on the island. All the rest of the family are kind of awful, so okay, whatever. The captain kind of ruins it for everyone, however, saying that in the vein of all European colonists, we found a chunk of dirt. So we're immediately going to ruin your little bit of paradise by the second we get back to civilization. We're going to send just a bunch of people to colonize this place. Have fun with your paradise for the next, 2 months until we can tell people where it is and send them here.
They do have a bit of a light there by saying that father could be the governor of this settlement.
Yeah,
which
but
he kind of likes.
Father's entire reason for liking this place was that there were no people. Behold, my little plot of land, which has no people other than the ones I am related to. Look at how non-people-y it is. And immediately they're like, Europeans have discovered it. Let us fill it with Europeans. I mean, this guy's entire story was, Europe really sucks. Let's get away from Europe.
Let's get away from civilization. Oh, civilization's coming to me. Do I get to be the boss? Okay.
I mean, maybe it's slightly better if you're the governor. I doubt it, though, because then you just have to deal with people bringing their problems to you. This is not a happy ending for anybody. This movie. Let's get to the question. Is there magic here? No. This movie is anti-magic. This movie is anathema to magic.
There's a lot of this movie where nothing happens.
Oh my god.
I get that you want to focus on these people from essentially the city getting used to the country life, kind of. I get that's where they were coming from and what we're trying to do, but it takes up so much of the movie, and it's it takes too long to get to the actual story where they introduce Roberta and the pirates, and it's just
no. Even when Roberta shows up, that's not a story. Love triangles are not a story. Love triangles are not a story. Stop thinking they are. And if the only plot in your movie is a love triangle, you do not have a plot.
And as you said, the personalities of the brothers immediately shift now that there's a girl on the island.
Also, girl is not a personality. Stop thinking it is.
They do. I mean, it has gotten better.
Yeah, but we're talking about this movie.
Yeah.
And we have to judge this movie as a movie. And you can say, it was the time. But, there were good movies when this movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen them. They exist. This is not one of them. I get why people have nostalgic goggles for this. I get if you watched this movie 700 billion times as a kid, you'd be like, "Aw, I remember the part where the little kid had the monkey. I remember the part with the elephant." I think you're remembering the animals. I think your nostalgia for this movie is animals. Because I cannot imagine what in this movie would make anybody happy that has a people in it.
Final grade, no magic.
Yeah. The good news is, Lost in Space exists. Go watch that. It's campy. It's fun. It's not owned by Disney, I don't think. But, it exists. It's got Billy Mooney. And it's probably not about colonialism. I mean, it probably is.
Danger, Francis Robinson, danger.
Oh. I don't know. It's, I can't, this movie grates on every last nerve I have.
Let's move on. let's move on to next week. We are going to be talking about another movie with a mouse. It's been a few weeks since we talked about a movie with a mouse. This mouse cooks. We're talking about Ratatouille.
Yeah, here's a fun story. I've never seen Ratatouille.
Well, we're going to get your thoughts on Ratatouille next time. So we'll I mean, the few first-time movies that we have seen that you have watched on this podcast, most of them you have liked.
Yeah, and I've heard great things about it. I don't really know how I've missed this one.
But you also missed like Lilo and Stitch when it came out.
Yeah,
so
yeah, I mean, it was one of those that I don't know how I missed it, but I'm looking forward to it. I like food. I like mices. I like Patton Oswalt.
So yeah, come back next time for Ratatouille, and we'll talk to you all then. Bye.
Don't let the magic stop here.
Join our conversation online on Facebook at Rewatching the Magic.
Twitter at Rewatch the Magic.
And of course, new episodes every week at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com.
Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.